Okay guys, welcome back. So today we're doing a little test of a very pretty looking iron.
Yes, very classic.
The Wilson Staff Forged Blades, as played by Mr. Gary Woodland.
That's right, yeah.
So I think it was a big signing for them when sort of Gary signed on, and he's very particular about obviously the equipment he plays in, especially his irons. Last time I seen him, he was playing an old set of Titleist irons.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah, that he'd kind of played sort of during college, and he really likes that kind of smaller profile.
I mean, it's about as small as it gets, especially the sole width. I don't think I've seen anything that's as narrow as that on the sole.
It's a really interesting sole. It was the first thing I noticed when I picked up the sort of camber to the sole is very unique. It's got a lot of...
Yeah, it does. Very rounded this way.
A lot of shape to it. So we're going to do a little test of this iron. We're going to test it up against your own iron.
Yep, at the same loft.
At the same exact loft. See how it sort of stacks up, and it's just something that you've seen, you know, in the questions, you know, in
Quite
the other
bit,
videos,
yeah.
people asking about irons like this especially from Wilson. We've done some other testing with their stuff last year.
Yeah, their irons seem to be very popular. I think I'm having trouble remembering the name. I think V6.
V6.
The cavity
V6
irons.
Forged, yeah.
They did really well, and I think these obviously they look really good. So people were curious, kind of maybe how they would be in forgiveness, given they're so small, and how they feel and such like that. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to trying them.
Profile wise, I mean, you play obviously the 765s. It's quite a lot smaller than a 765.
It is. Yeah, it's definitely shorter this way. Sole width is probably about half, something like that.
I mean, it really is.
Probably about half the thickness. So, I mean, I don't expect them to be super forgiving, but there's obviously some, I guess, little cavity details and such in here that might
well,
help
grab your iron again, and sort of you can see the design to kind of push, obviously, mass towards the toe. It's the same idea. Right. They're trying to push that mass towards the toe. So, although they are blades and traditional in that sense, you still want to manipulate the mass where you can to provide higher MOI, and you know, if you can match up, you know, the looks and feel of clearly a really, you know, high-end golf club, then you know, get the forgiveness in there, you get the best of both worlds.
So there's sort of a retro look, would be my take on it.
Well, that's a really good point. I mean, speaking of retro, I mean, Wilson still hold the record for most majors won by a company in golf, which is kind of hard to believe considering the last player to win a major. Obviously Woodland, you know, was playing the irons, but prior to that, I think the last player before that was Paul Lawrie at the 1999 British Open or Open Championship at Courtesy.
Was Harrington with Wilson at all, or was
Harrington was? You're right. You're absolutely right.
But I don't know what clubs he had in the bag.
He was. No, you're right.
Just irons though. I think,
but prior to that, you know, it was back in. It was like, you know, Sneed.
Yeah, so they had some gaps in there for sure.
Those guys.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. All right, well, let's start hitting them, and
let's hit a few.
Go through it. Good start. Feels nice.
Yeah, initial feels.
Yeah, it feels very
good.
As you would expect, very solid, very kind of classic feel.
Feeling pretty soft?
They do feel pretty soft, yeah, definitely.
It's really nice.
They seem to be a little more neutral, the flight, like I haven't really crossed the line much with any of them.
They're spinning quite a lot higher, Matty.
Yeah, interesting.
Quite a lot higher. We've regulated the loft on both of them to 33, so. How do you feel that you struck that one?
A little heavy. That's how it felt. Maybe. That's a little bit on the toe at most. Well, they feel good though. It's a little thin. That felt pretty bad. I mean, you definitely
It sounded a little thin.
Yeah, you really feel that. That did not feel good.
What are you feeling with it?
I mean, I think you feel a miss hit much more.
Yeah.
It sort of looks like, I think it's just the offset maybe makes it look like it's a little bit of a weaker iron because it's, I don't know, almost makes it see like it's a little bit straighter or something. But in terms of when I look up and look at the ball flight, I think the ball flights are pretty similar.
Yeah, it would be very hard for the eye to really detect what's going on different. I mean, this one's launching a little bit higher, spinning a little bit more.
Right. That was a good one. I mean, the distance control seems pretty tight. I don't feel like I've hit too many long, that's for sure. One that was a little short, but it was pretty thin. It seemed to be pretty steady.
The absolute best to the absolute worst on carry, there's about half a club.
Yeah, which is good. I mean,
Yeah.
the worst was a really bad thin one, and the best was turned over way too much, like too much of a draw.
There's definitely a couple miles an hour in it. There's a degree of launch in it,
Yeah.
and there's half a club of spin in it.
Yep. So I don't think any of that's unexpected, you would say?
Yeah,
Well, probably
I
more
would agree.
The Strixons are, we know to be a nice kind of fast cavity back iron.
And lower spin, generally
lower spin.
speaking, we obviously saw that during the player's cavity test.
Right.
It was the lowest of all the irons in that category, even when loft is the same, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is. I don't really know that there's too easy of an explanation for that with that iron, is there? Something to do with the internal weighting of it.
Yeah, hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to say. I mean, it's definitely a CG story in there somewhere, but it's hard to say why it influences spin to consistently be a little bit lower.
Right, right.
Okay, Matty, a little bit of a difference between your iron and the Wilson. Little bit of a ball speed drop, little bit of a spin spike.
Yeah.
Probably not something that we would have been that surprised to see.
No, I think we usually will see, call this half a club, something like that. Maybe a third of a club or something like that.
It's kind of almost a half a club in every which way. So it's, I would normally see about 3 miles an hour ball speed between clubs. You've got 1.5.
Okay. So there
there's about 400 RPM to spin. Most people 800 club to club. It's
basically why people play blades, right? They want that
Yeah.
more regulated, slightly higher spin flight.
yeah.
Shorter difference between, I guess, your shortest hit and longest hit, like you mentioned while we were hitting.
Yep.
So it's as expected. I think they feel really good. I was able to detect miss hits, but I don't think they were the worst results. Probably one of the better blades we've tested, though.
Yeah.
I like them quite a bit. I don't think that the profile is probably as short as Mizuno, their new blade. I found their new blade to be a little more compact looking at address. But other than that, I think it will be about as traditional a blade as anyone.
As it gets.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of lineage and obviously their blade design, and you can see that with the little kind of diamond on the
on the scoring lines,
edge of
right?
the scoring lines and stuff like that. That's a bit of a throwback to.
And this up here, same thing,
yeah,
right?
yep,
On the hosel.
yep. Some little features in there that kind of look very, very classic.
Yeah. If you're going to look at blades, I would throw those in the mix for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of looking at blades, the one that really in our matrix seemed the most similar. If anything, actually, when we compare it, the blueprint's slightly smaller.
It's smaller in every way, really.
Yeah, the sole width is a little smaller, the blade length is a little smaller.
Yeah.
So if you are the type of kind of player that is looking for that really compact blade, you're probably going to find these two in the conversation that you should probably get out there and try both of them.
I would say so for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, blade's a blade.
A blade's a blade. I think when it comes to blades, as long as your turf interaction feels good, which I think it did.
Correct.
I think one of them I thought I hit really heavy, and the result was actually quite fine. As long as the turf interaction's good, you like the feel, you like the look, I think it's going to come down to a lot of personal preference.
Definitely. Okay, you guys. Well, it was an interesting one. Hopefully there's been a few people waiting on us testing that one. That would be certainly the kind of purpose of us doing this one.
I don't think you're ever looking for revolutionary stuff when it comes to blades, or at least I know we aren't with any blades we've seen. They're all very close in performance, and I would just go out and test the one you like the feel of the most and pick the one you like.
Absolutely. It's purchase season. It's
Christmas season.
time.
Yeah.
So people out there looking, I mean, I'm not sure. These have been out in the market, I guess, for a year or
They
so.
have been a year,
Hard to say. I don't know if, we've not heard if there's anything new coming from them or whether this is going to stay in their range for the next little while.
Probably would, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right, guys. Lots more to come. We'll see you again soon.